There is a lot to cover here, so you'll have to forgive me if I go a little fast through these features, or indeed if I don't explain some of the stuff deeply enough. I will link to previous explanations as and when necessary. I thought about breaking this down into 2 or 3 videos, but we all know what happens when I do that, right? So new PrusaSlicer Alpha was released, and don't at me with the whole it's not released. What else would you call it? It's released in Alpha. It's released, and it's available for you to download. So if you fancy trying out these features right now, then go get it and come back and watch the rest of this. First up, and this is the big one, I don't think anyone was more surprised than I was about how quickly the dev team have somehow managed to implement the Arachne engine's functionality into PrusaSlicer. How many devs do they have? Anyway, to be clear, Arachne was derived from a paper written a couple of years ago that gives an entirely new way of routing paths when you're turning individual slices of model into sausagey bits. If you want me to try and explain how Arachne works, then comment down below. I'm not making any promises because it's really hardcore stuff, and I'm not kidding. But if enough of you want it, then I will do it, or I'll try to, and I'll probably fail. I mean, maybe I'll get the Play-Doh out again. Who knows? But I did somewhat explain it a bit in my Cura 5 video not that long ago. It's basically more of this, and less of this, and more of this, and less of this. It's also really good at small details because it fundamentally bothers to try to draw them, where previously the slicer would have ignored details below a certain resolution. And I did at the time think that this was such a huge change to Cura that PrusaSlicer risked being at a disadvantage, but here we are. Both of the main slicers available are now Arachne enabled, or powered by Arachne, or whatever you want to call it. This is absolutely great news for the end users. That's us, by the way. Next up, and this is another one I've actually covered before, because it was in Cura. This is another one that came from a paper. I will link the papers below if you're interested. This one is definitely easier to get your head around. In fact, I explained it pretty well, in my opinion, in the most popular video I've made yet. Statistically, if you're watching this in the first 2 days since I release it, you're actually very likely to have even found this channel through the Lightning Infill video, and so you shouldn't need any explanation. But for the rest of you, it's an algorithm that sort of works in the same way as tree supports, but inside of a model. Some people say that the name Lightning is a play on lightening, as in the model will weigh less, but I don't buy it. I think it's possibly from the zigzag patterns, and I guess there were no better ideas at the time. I would have called it Wiggly Magic Infill personally, but that's me. Pressure Equalizer is next, and that is actually a new thing, I think. It sounds a bit like all the other things that people talk about a lot, but you might not have bothered to look up what they mean, like linear advance or pressure advance. Of course, we all know that they improve print quality, but we might not know exactly why or what they are. Of course I do. Yeah, I absolutely understand them, obviously. Anyway, Pressure Equalizer is, as explained by the documentation, a way to mitigate the phenomenon that you get when you change from one extrusion rate to another. Now, this is very much a Bowden thing, and I've gone into this extensively, in fact, in my previous TPU videos, so I think this might actually also work better for TPU even. That's something I want to test out. But the principle is that pressure matters when extruding, and for flexible filaments, pressure matters because they're elastic and they're compressible, so obviously when you squish one end, you don't necessarily get the same amount of material translated out of the other. I think, or I hope, that anyone who has watched my last TPU video will understand that. If not, you should probably watch it. But, and here's the but, even the most constrained Bowden path, and that's the tube between the extruder and the hot end, by the way, in case you didn't know, even for the most rigid filament, there is still room for the material to build up, I guess, elastic potential energy, if you want to call it that. And that means that when you're extruding fast, and you want to then either stop or slow down, you've got this extra pressure in the system that you can't stop. Except you can, because that is what retraction does. But this apparently helps too, or instead. So I really want to test that out in detail, so expect that soon. finally, it seems, get it? The last thing I want to show you is improvements to the routing or placement of seams. If you don't know what the seam is on a 3D print, you're likely not the only one, judging by how many times I see people ask what the line is on the back of their pristine printed out cylinder-shaped object. When you aren't printing in vase mode, that's a can of worms right there. But yeah, when you're printing normally in your slicer, you will get a seam in the model. This is the point at which you are changing layer. You can, if you look at the preview on any model, you can actually see the seam. You can have a look at it. There's usually an in and an out. Think of each layer's outer wall as a long twisty tapeworm, and it has a head and a tail. Hiding those two parts is not always easy, and this new change seems, there we go again, to think it can do a better job. I think in my opinion this is one to file under things you normally won't notice, but definitely will be part of a gradual improvement in overall print quality. So there ends the video. That is 4 absolutely huge new features right there. I think it's probably worth trying this alpha out. To use it right now, it seems... No, we're not still doing seam jokes. It would appear that in Windows you just have to download and unzip the files to a folder of your choosing and run the executable. So I don't see how it would affect your existing installation of a previous version, but obviously back everything up if you aren't sure. What do you think? Is this worth using right now? Yes. Do you still want tree supports? You going to try it out? Are you waiting for Cura to port paint on supports? Me too, on all counts. Comment below and let me know if you try it out, or if you don't, or whatever. And I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.